Everybody, welcome to What's Up Wednesday. This week, I want to talk about a subject I'm going to call Look in the Mirror. Maybe a better title would be Extreme Ownership. But in a nutshell, and I'm not harping on the people who do this, I'm looking at the root cause of why they do what they're doing. It'll make more sense here in a minute. But regularly on LinkedIn, I see certain people posting that they're looking for work. And it seems like, and I could start listing names and we could be here forever, but it seems that there are certain people who are always looking for work. And I know from experience with some of them that it's because they're very self-defeating. Now, I would say that emotional intelligence and self-awareness are not necessarily innate in everybody. Sometimes it takes a lot of work, a lot of effort, a lot of discipline to focus on that self-awareness. Now, when it comes to things not going well for people, let's just say that they don't do well on a project, they have an altercation with somebody, a falling out. Next thing you know, they're out of work, they're looking for work. And again, these people tend to be constantly looking for work. And I think a big part of it is that they aren't self-aware and they're causing problems that are resulting in them being released from their assignments from work. And over time, this happens enough with enough employers that opportunities become very scarce for them. And they start to get a little bit desperate. And you see the postings on LinkedIn where they're saying, I'm interested on almost every job posted. And then they get frustrated because they're not getting any responses back. Now, there's a really good book, a couple books actually, by Alif Babin and Jocko Willink called, the first one was Extreme Ownership, which I absolutely love. The second is The Dichotomy of Leadership, which is kind of a continuation of Extreme Ownership. When we look at things going wrong as humans, we have a natural tendency to want to find out what happened so that we can place blame. The reality, and we know this in safety, is that we want to identify root causes so that we can identify things we can do to prevent a reoccurrence or another occurrence of the same type of an incident. Ultimately, extreme ownership, it's very simple. What went wrong? What did I do to contribute to that? And what could I do differently? And I think that these folks, and we all know kind of who they are, we see them posting on LinkedIn looking for work. If they took a little bit of extreme ownership, and if you're out there watching that or watching this What's Up Wednesday, buy the book Extreme Ownership because it's really easy to read. And if you combine it with the message I'm sending today, it may help greatly in your career path, in your journey, so that number one, you don't make the mistakes that result in losing a job. And secondly, you don't get yourself into a position where you're almost unhireable because of a reputation maybe that's been earned in the industry across many failures on many different projects, many different employers. I think I'm oversimplifying this a little bit, but ultimately, I don't want to pick on those folks because I'm one who's always willing to give somebody a second chance, depending on how egregious something is. There are times where it's so substantial that you really cannot take on the risk of giving somebody that second or third chance, whatever it may be. But ultimately, I think that the control lies with those people to reflect inwardly when something goes wrong, when they lose a job, when they're laid off and released. Find out why, find out how they did, whether the client was happy with them or not, and then improve upon themselves so that through each subsequent job, they get better and better. And eventually, they're not looking for work. Eventually, people are coming to them constantly soliciting them to go to work for them instead of the exact opposite, which again is this almost desperate search for opportunity and no takers, more or less. So, I mean, hopefully that's helpful, but I think it really takes a good look in the mirror. It takes that extreme ownership that it is not innate or natural in a lot of people. But without a little self-awareness that maybe you're not a victim, maybe you're responsible for the outcome. And that's the very first step in the process of changing, is owning that mistake, realizing that this wasn't somebody else, this was me. They didn't fire me, they didn't let me go. I was released because of something that I did. And I think that the more that people can kind of take that mentality, which is very, very difficult to accept, the more likely they are to be successful and the less likely they are to be desperately looking for work on LinkedIn. So hopefully that speaks to somebody out there. If it does, it was definitely worth this time. And we'll see you next Wednesday.